Messiah Complex. It's a behavior pattern in which a person sees themselves as a savior, leader, or messianic figure. They often feel an intense need to be worshipped, followed, or revered by others, and they may believe they have a special destiny or a unique mission to save or transform others. This term can also be used to represent a mental state in which a person believes they are an actual messiah or prophet and will save or redeem people in a religious endeavor. The Messiah complex can manifest in various contexts, from political and religious leaders to individuals in positions of authority or influence. Oedipus Complex. It's a psychological theory developed by Sigmund Freud that suggests that during early childhood, around ages 3 to 6, a child feels a subconscious sexual attraction to the opposite sex parent and jealousy towards the same sex parent, seeing him or her as a rival. Freud believed this complex is a normal stage of development that most children eventually outgrow, resolving these feelings as they identify more with the same sex parent. This complex is named after the Greek myth of Oedipus, who unknowingly killed his father and married his mother. Peter Pan Complex. This term is used to describe an older person whose emotional life has remained at an adolescent level, avoiding responsibilities and commitments, and preferring a more irresponsible and childish attitude. It takes its name from Peter Pan, who is known for his refusal to grow up and his desire to remain eternally young. People with this complex usually leave important decisions to others, exhibit dependent behaviors, both emotionally and economically, and have a low tolerance for frustration. It's actually not recognized by the World Health Organization. It's not listed in the DSM-5, and it has a significant overlap with narcissistic personality disorder. Adonis Complex. Also called muscle dysmorphia or vigorexia, it's a disorder in which the person is obsessed with their physical condition to unhealthy levels. People with this complex have a distorted view of themselves, seeing themselves as weak. It usually directly impacts their eating behavior and their physical activity levels, usually making them pretty extreme. It affects mostly men, particularly those involved in sports where body size or weight are competitive factors, becoming rationales to gain muscle or become leaner. In more severe cases, social relationships are abandoned, and every other aspect of life is neglected to focus on training. It's also possible that some of them start getting an exaggerated protein intake and start using anabolic steroids to increase their muscle mass. People with this complex may not seek help, thinking they're leading a healthy lifestyle. Jonah Complex. It's the fear of success, and it obviously prevents self-actualization, keeping those who suffer from it tied to behavior patterns that limit them. Some causes of this complex can be the fear of leaving the comfort zone and breaking the routine, or even shyness, since developing our talents usually goes hand in hand with attracting the attention of others. They can also have feelings of guilt because they feel they do not deserve it, as well as the fear that their relationships will be strained if they achieve success because their friends and family will react with jealousy. All of this also stems from the overwhelming sense of responsibility that could come with achieving success. Superiority Complex. It's an unconscious mechanism in which a person exhibits attitudes of superiority to hide his or her own insecurities and feelings of inferiority. It usually manifests in an exaggerated belief in being exceptionally better than others, with inflated self-esteem and the conviction that everything they do, say, or believe is correct. This person tends to see others as inferior as a defense mechanism for his own shortcomings, and it can be associated with social withdrawal and daydreaming as ways to avoid facing the fear of failure. Inferiority Complex. It consists of feeling inferior to other people without any rational reason, feeling that others are better, have more qualities, and more possibilities in everything. It may cause an individual to overcompensate in a number of ways. For example, a short person who feels inferior for that reason might wear special shoes to make himself appear taller or surround himself with individuals who are even shorter than he is. It may also cause an individual to be prone to flashy attitudes, with behaviors ranging from attention-seeking to excessive competitiveness and aggression in an attempt to compensate for their either real or imagined deficiencies. Superman Complex. It's an unhealthy sense of responsibility, or the belief that everyone else lacks the capacity to successfully perform one or more tasks. Such a person may feel a constant need to save others, and in the process, takes on more work on their own. Othello Syndrome. Also known as pathological jealousy, it's a delusional disorder in which the person suffering from it is firmly convinced that their partner is unfaithful without any rational reason to believe so. It usually comes with obsessive thoughts, with the affected people constantly thinking that their partner is being unfaithful and having controlling behaviors, such as constantly monitoring their partner's activities, checking their messages or contacts, and limiting their overall freedom. The name Othello Syndrome comes from the character in Shakespeare's play Othello, who murders his wife as a result of a false belief that she has been unfaithful. Cinderella Complex. It's a psychological term describing a woman's unconscious desire to be taken care of by others, like Cinderella being rescued by a prince. Women with this complex might feel unable to be independent or self-sufficient, often relying on others for support and decision-making, and may fear taking on adult responsibilities. The complex is said to become more apparent as a person grows older, and it might come from an education where a woman is expected to be beautiful, polite, and supportive of others, but fundamentally incapable of either taking care of herself or changing her situation through her own efforts. Instead, she is taught that she needs to be protected and taken care of by someone else, usually a man. Napoleon Complex. This one refers to the aggressive attitude taken by some below-average height individuals who develop excessively dominant, ambitious, or aggressive behavior or personality to compensate for their perceived lack of height. This term is inspired by Napoleon Bonaparte, who was known for his relatively short stature but also for his excessive ambition and constant pursuit of power and military conquests. Even though the reality is that he was of average height among all men in France, he was just much shorter than the elite soldiers, aristocrats, and high officials that he met with. Hero Syndrome. It's a psychological phenomenon that causes a person to seek recognition for heroism to unhealthy levels, such as by sneakily creating a harmful situation, which they can then resolve to be seen as a hero. Persecution complex. It's a psychological phenomenon in which a person experiences the irrational and persistent belief that they are being persecuted, watched, or conspired against by others without any real evidence to support it. Those who suffer from this complex often interpret the actions of others in a distorted way, attributing malicious or persecutory intentions to them. When a malicious intention is attributed to a person, they are treated with hostility, probably causing that same person to be more hostile too, in a self-fulfilling prophecy that reaffirms the beliefs of the person with the persecution complex. Persecution delusions are very diverse in terms of content and vary from the possible, although improbable, to the completely bizarre, and those who suffer from these types of delusions might take drastic measures to feel like they're protected, such as not leaving their houses to avoid being harmed. Guilt complex. It is characterized by intense feelings of responsibility and remorse for past actions perceived as negative, even though they might not have been caused by him or her. It sometimes even includes the persistent belief and fear that the person will do something wrong in the future. The person feels guilt persistently, even when there is no clear or logical reason to do so. They are excessively self-critical and think they are responsible for everything bad that happens. God complex. A person with a God complex has extreme arrogance and a sense of superiority, and they may believe they are above their species and other species on Earth. They may refuse to admit the possibility of making a mistake or failing, even when faced with complex problems or difficult or impossible tasks. Additionally, they may consider their personal opinions as unquestionably correct, making them dogmatic and stubborn about their ideas. They believe the world revolves around them, lack empathy, and usually exhibit narcissistic personality disorder. Someone with a God complex may also exhibit no regard for the conventions and demands of society and may request special consideration or privileges. This complex is frequently found among business leaders, societal leaders, and political figures. Virgin complex. People with this complex feel that they cannot have a satisfying sexual relationship with someone they love deeply, as they perceive them as virginal or pure, while they can only feel sexual desire towards people they do not love, whom they perceive as impure. This obviously makes it difficult for them to integrate sexuality and love in a relationship. If you want to discuss this video or suggest an idea for the next one, join my Discord, link in the description.